Hey, it's Saturday morning, and I wanted to take a second and show you the live rig that I designed. A lot of engineering went into it. The idea was to make it small, light. I wanted it to be, under 50 pounds to bring it on planes. That's not easy to do when you're dealing with road cases. Hal, I'm sure you know that. And a lot of engineering went into the wire and the height and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to show you what I built, because I think it turned out pretty good and it's kind of interesting. We all deal with the same challenges, so I figured might as well share the information. By the way, before we go on, this is a picture of the old rig that I built. And this was kind of a failed effort to build a road case. Way harder than it sounds. Don't bother. It's well worth a couple $100 to get one that's built right. But I just wanted a trough to kind of dump everything in that had handles that I could kind of pick it up and move it. I knew this wasn't going to be anything I could use outside of the home. But anyway, much improvement was needed. All right, this is actually a road case for guitar pedals, pedal board. It was a good size though. I wanted something the right height without being overly wide, because I'll anticipate kind of having to throw this on tables or whatever. You won't always have the space you want. But it's got butterfly latches on the side. I foamed out the top. This is actually part of the engineering, because you can't have your foam too tall. You want to squash the gear in there, but you don't want to over squash it. So height became really important when I was designing this. You could see how everything is pretty much the same height. That took some planning. Most of this stuff is USB. That's why I've got a USB hub built in here. And as you can see, I've got all the connectivity on the front panel. So power, guitar, mic, mains. I have turntable input along with a ground tie down, just in case I want to connect a turntable. Because remember, the Chaos Pad's got a phono input. Headphone and USB. I don't know what that's for yet, but I figured I had an extra USB port or two. Might as well wire it over here. This handle here and this handle here lets me lift the whole top panel off for servicing. And here's kind of where this whole idea came from. I didn't want to waste space, especially horizontal space, on stuff I don't need to touch. So all the stuff on the top panel I need to interact with, but the audio interface and the power supply and storage can all be out of sight and out of mind. So I've got this cheapo Behringer, which is actually awesome for the money, handling all my mic input and iPad input, guitar input, all the outputs. My insert points both go to the two channels of the Chaos Pad. Insert points, man, they're hard to find, but they're awesome. MIDI, everything's connected, but I'll never need to touch it after it's set up. So I put that on the ground floor, if you will. Same with power distribution. I've got a PowerCon True 1 feeding this power distro, but I don't need to touch it. Then I built a wall so I could put all my microphone, mic cables, guitar cables, LED lamps here, but they're not going to bump into here because I've separated them with the wall. Obviously, that's so I can transport it easily, but everything's wired in such a way that I don't need to touch it or worry about it. It's all where I want it. And then this whole thing, of course, just flips back down, sits on those posts, and these can take a wing nut. They're not connected right now, but I can wing nut them down so the whole thing doesn't move and transport. And that's it, self-contained. And I have access to everything I actually need to touch. Talk about that next, I suppose. All right, so this is where this thing lives when it's at home. I've got this closet that I kind of turned into a shelf system. But anyway, connected my USB. That took about 5 seconds. Flipped my iPad up so I could reach it. Plugged in power, plugged in microphone, maybe guitar. I mean, not right now. And these are my outputs that go to my patch bay here at home. I didn't even plug in my headphones for now, but they go there. I mean, really easy, right? The whole thing fires up at once. And then this connection to the USB hub obviously hits the computer. I am running Ableton. I'm not in love with it, but it does serve the purpose of getting my loops over here, which is what I really needed. Obviously, we all know what that does. And then the iPad, I've just got a bunch of weird stuff. This is an old iPad, and I can really only get old software developed by nerds. So that's worked out great because I got all these cool noisemakers. And I actually have, like I said, the insert comes over to the Chaos Pad. So there's some interesting possibilities there. And this chaos pad's got the samplers on it. This is quite a bit better than the sampler on the original one. So and that's it. I'll spare you the microphone part, but that goes through this also. And, you know, setup is less than a minute. The computer doesn't really have to be out in front of me. I just stick it in the side. That's what those little padded hooks were for, because it's only really going to be for monitoring. If I set this all up properly, I'm not going to really have to touch the computer while I'm doing this, because, you know, obviously with Ableton, as I shift across from the control panel, it shifts across through all the stuff.
You are now entering the hall of violence.
The power of evil, the power of the devil, evil over good.
So that's it. Pretty straightforward. I've only begun to fiddle with it, but it's working out great.